Hi, family. I'm Tony. I'm a recovered food addict. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day off the gray sheet, write it in my phone, call my sponsor at 9:40 p.m. every night. Don't eat no matter what, and eat no matter what. Means since I came to gray sheet, I'm never hungry. Well, that's the end of the facts. Because when I came into any food program, I was always hungry. Because my drug of choice is more. More of what Carolyn has, more of what Erin has, more of what Christine has, more of what Sheila has. I'm Italian, I'm Irish, and I like to eat more. More sugar, more carbs and sugar. And where I grew up in Babylon Village, it was 9 houses, we're all related. And if you love me, you fed me, And I remember getting sugary stuff for Christmas and sugary stuff for just sugary. Oh my gosh. My family's still a little addicted to sugar, in my opinion, but they don't have a problem. I do. I went to dinner last night with my family and I forgot to order a plate. I forgot to tell them that I don't eat the carbohydrate with the protein. And my mom's like, oh, he doesn't eat. And I was like, oh, this is so cute. But I came in, real quick, if nobody ever seen me before, I came in at 400 pounds. 400 pounds. I know what 400 pounds tastes like. It tastes like more, and when I came into, Gray Sheet, well, I went to OA for many, many years, and I gained and lost the same 100 pounds over and over and over, up, down, up, down, up, down. I didn't eat sugar for 7 months. I lost 100 pounds. I, was in a relationship. I left that relationship. I only gained 6 pounds a month for the next 2 years. Kept that on for many, many years. Um, I've been on diets. I've been on, Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, Nutrisystems. I've been hypnotized. I had the balls put behind my ears. I tried everything to lose weight. I could never stay stop. I remember sitting in a sauna at the gym for like an hour, coming out looking like, you know what? And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm totally dehydrated. But look, I lost 2 pounds. Oh, isn't that awesome? Only to find that as soon as you put it, anything in your mouth. So I can never stay stopped. Having eating disorders, like getting hit with, cotton balls. You get hit with a couple cotton balls, it doesn't really hurt. And all of a sudden you got a ton of cotton balls on you, you can't breathe. You're like, all right, now it's time to do something, right? So my sponsor says this a lot. If you could do Gray Sheet one day, you could do it the rest of your life. It's just three clear cut directions, three way to measure meals a day, clear cut directions. We don't make any food, or I don't make any independent food decisions. Um, I came into Gray Sheet with diabetes, sleep apnea, neuropathy. I couldn't see my feet, much less anything below my belly. It was hard to be clean yourself when you go to the bathroom. I would sit in seats and break them. I remember going to Trader Joe's when I first came in at 400 pounds. Trader Joe's has like these little wagons. And I said, excuse me to these women one time, and they moved like an inch. And I'm like, turn around and look at me. I was very angry when I was fat. Like, oh, sorry. I'm like, yeah, it's just, I was like, oh, I'm never coming to the store again. I'd rather go to Costco, nice big wide open areas. And I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know that when I put a little bit of sugar and carbs and grains in my body, that it set off the phenomenon of craving. I wanted more. I knew with alcohol it did that because I got sober in the 80s and I'm still sober. So, but I didn't know that, it turned it the sugar, carbs, and grains was killing me hard, killing me fast, and just I didn't know what I didn't know. And I remember I went to a Gray Sheet meeting in January of 2017, and I cupped for a month. If anybody cups, good for you. I'm a weigher and a measurer. I cupped for a month. I lost 35 pounds. I went to a restaurant, eyeballed the meal. The sponsor said, "How'd you do?" I said, "I don't know. It looked all right." He goes, "Did you weigh and measure or cup or bring any kind of measuring device?" I said, "No. Why would I?" He says, "Because we weigh and measure. We weigh and measure without exception." I said, even in restaurants? He said, even in restaurants. And I was like, oh, well, I didn't do that. He's like, oh, well, you got to start over. I was like, bye. So I left and, 35 pounds I lost. I found 60 or whatever. And, back up a little, back in, I don't remember how long ago, 25, 30 years ago, I was at an AA retreat. I was fat. I had my own business, ABC painting. And I had a big 3 or 4X sweatshirt. And my sponsor, who I didn't know was going to be my sponsor one day, was there. And I said, "You want this sweatshirt? I'm done being fat." He goes, "Ah, it's free for me." So he took it. Then I saw him like 10 years later and he was a normal sized dude. I said, "Hey, how's it going? You new?" He goes, "No, I'm so and so." I said, "Yeah, sure, you always get surgery, cheater." And no offense to anybody if you had surgery, but that wasn't something on my bucket list. And he said, no, I weigh and measure 3 meals a day, da, 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 and he gave me the pitch, that you guys have been saying for, since you've been here. But he planted that mustard seed of hope. I don't know if anybody's ever seen a mustard seed. It's only about this big, and ironically, I actually have a mustard seed. See how small that thing is? I think it's like really small. And it says on the thing, the mustard seed is the smallest of all seeds, yet when it grows, it is the largest of garden plants and becomes a tree. If you have faith, as small as a mustard seed, nothing will be impossible for you. Faith is fear ain't in this house, and hope is hold on, pain ends, and hearing other people's experience, and happy our program exists. And I got a lot of acronyms. I got them for another program, and they help me, and so I I called that guy. Actually, I had a PE back in I don't remember when, like 11 years ago. I had a massive pulmonary embolism in my driveway. I pissed my pants and I passed out. And just before I woke up, I saw the most beautiful blue sky, big puffy clouds. I was like, oh, I could breathe. I thought I had bronchitis. So you know, I just didn't want to look at it. P.S. I had the whole right side of my lungs were clogged with blood clots. I had a big clot behind my left knee. And it's a miracle I lived because that's what the doctor said. I had three doctors say, I was in really bad shape. You're probably going to die. I'm like, come on, doc, rouse the shape. They didn't laugh. And I just, again, I'm in the hospital. I'm like, right before I woke up, I went to the pearly gates and it was locked. And I woke up, I saw the most beautiful blue sky, big puffy clouds. I was like, oh. And then I remember 400 pounds. I took a picture of myself in the ambulance and I could see it as clear as day. And I remember getting to the hospital. Like, what happened? I said, I don't know. I was shoveling my driveway. I pissed my pants. I passed out. They're like, did it snow? I said, no. They're like, what are you talking about? I started laughing. I said, I don't know. I'm a wise guy. And they did a bunch of tests. And I remember the cardiologist rushed me to the ICU. He's like, you're in really bad shape. You're probably going to die. I was like, oh my gosh. I remember laying in the bed that night and the chief surgeon comes in and he said the same thing. He said, you're in really bad shape. You're probably going to die. We're going to shoot a clot buster through you. It kills 5 to 10% of people instantly. I said, oh, well, I'm a freaking painter, doc. If that's what it is, if I'm going to die, so be it. If not, fix me. Okay, sign here. I signed the paper. They did it, and I lived. And then, I was on a, diabetic diet and no sugar. And, but they were giving me sugar-free stuff, which is bizarre, sugar-free stuff that we don't eat. And, Diet Cokes, whatever, and water and coffee, and I got out of the hospital. Now I'm scared. I go back to OA, but I remember, and then I had the pulmonologist tell me one time. He says, "Can I shake your hand?" I said, "Why is that?" He's like, "You're a medical mystery. You should have died. There's no reason why you woke up." It's like, interesting. So I go, he goes, "Look, Anthony, you gotta lose weight. You're gonna die." I was like, "All right, let's just do the surgery." He goes, "Fine." I Google what you can eat on the surgery. I was like, "I'm not willing to do that. I'll just commit suicide. That's the final straw. That'll be the answer." P.S. Obviously, I didn't do suicide, but I thought about it and I called somebody and he came to my aid and called that guy, and I did go to Gray Sheet in January 2017, like I said, and I bowled a meal. But then I came back in February 10th, 2018. I remember what I had for breakfast. It wasn't abstinent, but lunch and dinner was. And so the next day, February 11th, became my abstinence date. And I was like, oh my gosh, I hope one day I could say I weigh and measure without exception. I hope one day I could do this. And I was like, oh my God, I'm 400 pounds. 4 ounces won't fill a freaking cavity in my freaking tooth. But whatever, 4 ounces is enough. You got another meal coming, and I don't make independent food decisions. They told me I had to call somebody if I wanted, change something. And I've been in the hospital probably a half a dozen times since the PE. And there's been times where I missed a meal and I call a sponsor. I'm like, I'm in the hospital waiting for a CAT scan. They said I can't eat. They're like, okay, you told me. You didn't make an independent food decision. You told me. You told somebody else. We don't do this alone. The first word, the first step is we, without exception. We do this together. We. Right, Sarah? We. And you know, I I can never pay back Reishi what it's so freely given me. They told me that if you take care of the little scale, it'll take care of the big scale. Don't focus. If you focus on the big scale, you're not going to lose the weight. So just keep focusing on, weight and measuring. And I do a lot of cooking. Honestly, I have a stove in my house and somebody gave it to me. And I remember I had a roommate at the time. I said, "How do you turn this thing on?" He's like, "What?" I says, "Thank you." I see the little clock, which is very helpful. Thank you so much. Um, so I didn't even know how to turn the oven on. Today I cook, I'm not gourmet meals, but I get away with what I need, and I do batch cooking. I make like 12 to 14 breakfasts. I make like 10 lunches. So I don't have to think about what I'm going to eat for breakfast or lunch. And it stays fresh. Everybody's like, "Oh, how do you do it?" If you want to know what's in it, call me after the meeting and I'll tell you. And it worked, and I went to Italy last year for 13 days and I left 10 pounds in Italy, not food, 10 pounds of me. I lost 10 pounds in Italy. It's crazy. And prior to going to Italy, I was going to eat whatever I want and then come back and start over. But a lot of us go out and never come back. You never get back in day one. And I proved to myself time and time again that I went out, and I had a 20-year bite after I left away. And then I found Gray Sheet. Thank God. So, and again, I do believe in God, but you don't have to believe in God. But you have to believe that you're not him or her. You got to believe in a power greater than yourself. God saved my life when I got sober. God saved my life when I got abstinent. God saved my life when I had a massive pulmonary embolism, when three doctors said I was in really bad shape. I was probably going to die. So I think the divine person out there in the world saved my life so I could be a vessel, whew, to, to talk, to tell people how. I was telling this lady in the bank today, I have these cards that my sponsor had, and it says PSA on one side, and in the back it says, "Hi, my name is Tony, and I'm a compulsive eater, but I'm abstinent today, and that I weigh and measure 3 meals a day off the gray sheet. I've been on the program 7+ years and have 200 pounds of physical recovery. If you want to know more about my experience in gray sheet, please call 516-790-2137 anytime." And I write that in anything, and anytime means anytime. If I'm sleeping, I'll call you back. I help a lot of people. I sponsor a lot of people. I do a lot of service. I book meetings. I lead meetings. I did a wall with less than a year abstinent, and it was the most freeing thing that I've ever done. Coming to a 12-step program and not doing a 12 steps is like going to the gym for an hour and sitting in the car. Did you get anything out of it? No. But I went. Yeah, big deal. I come in, I show up. Sometimes I don't share, and people are like, "You okay? What's wrong?" You always have something to say. I said, "No, I'm tired of hearing myself talk." Like, "Oh, okay. Just want to know you're okay." And if you're new, you're just coming back, welcome. If you've been here a long time, thank you for being here when I got here. Um, and please, a lot of people, I like the fact that you have to have your camera on here because a lot of people hide out on the phone meeting and on the, video optional meetings, and they never talk. You never hear a word, you never hear a peep out of them. So if you're new and you never share and you go out, we're not going to miss you because we don't know you. I share the same thing in my other program. So I like to be heard. I like to be seen. I like to be a part of. And, coming into Gray Sheets with 30 years sober and being a newcomer was a little weird. But like I tell everybody, I'm an attention whore. There's nothing I like more than attention. So if I'm new and I got to say I'm new, I'm okay with that. But I'm not new today. I've been doing this, like I said, since February 11, 2018. Never look down at a person unless you're helping them up. And, I still call people that are not in the program. I still reach out and let them know, I'm here if you ever want to come back and not ready yet. Okay, well, I'm here if you want it, and it's the best thing, you know. I was just looking out the window the other day. I'm like, I live on the second to last house on the block. So like this program is the Navy SEALs of the 12-step programs for the food. Thank you. And it's amazing, and it's clear cut directions. Like I said, I go to I only have a couple suggestions for people I sponsor. Make 3 phone calls every day and get on a meeting every day. How hard is that? I personally, when I ate all the time, and people are like, "You were 400 pounds. What'd you eat?" I said, "It's not what I ate, it's how much I ate, and I ate all the time." So that being said, never look down on a person unless you're helping them up. If nobody told you I love you today, I love you. And thanks for saving my life. Living in faith every day. Peace.